Coming in through center, and into this central addendum through the right side of the field. What feels like very, I'll just say, large masculine energy showing up very strongly, very visible, and yet almost as if something is stopping it in its tracks. There is this feeling of warming to the heart, almost as if the energy pauses as it feels more to itself. So this addition now of connecting to feeling rather than just performing these actions or even behaviors being a certain way, there is now more depth to it, that it also encompasses this feeling or this, it's even coming through a sentimental range. Although that seems to be the fear, is if I become sentimental, is this going to hinder my advancement, my production, my ability to perform in such a way that is going to get me ahead or what I need. So we're coming into this place where these fears are actually leading to or showing the distortions in thinking. They're highlighting where the distortions in thinking are. Will these actions be profitable? Rather than, are these actions integral? And that even feels to be a bit off, because it's almost as if we shouldn't have to think about actions being integral. We are in a place of integrity, and everything arises therefore from that place. So it's refinding this center of truth, the true self, and then unraveling all of the thought processes that went around or lended to sustaining profitable behaviors and actions. In other words, actions and behaviors that were not fully grounded in the self and or integral. Because we can do things that we believe are correct and true and still be wrong, and yet if that's part of our process, if we are learning along the way, that is perfectly in alignment with the true self. So there is a distinction that needs to be made there. Just softening through the belly here. When we first came in, there was an immense amount of anxiety in the fields. And almost now this feeling that I can lay all of my cards on the table. It's not even cards. There's a feeling of I can show the palms of my hands. That feels like a very vulnerable position to be in. Holding things close to your chest, not showing your hand. But there is definitely a feeling here too of the palms of the hands, whether those are the chakras or whatever they may be. That is not necessarily something that feels comfortable to be laying out on the table, to be exposed here. But this really feels like this is my heart on the table. This is the truth of who I am. And in the programmed world, that is a very scary position to be in. But moving forward, here we feel this in the body. This is what must be. And this seems to be actually where the anxiety is arising from, is this is just the way we need to be in the flesh now. And so adjusting the mind, understanding where these thoughts are arising from, where these sensations and feelings of anxiety, therefore, are coming from, as we sort out the integral path of the self. So again, highlighting here, the integral path of the self does not necessarily mean that we aren't going to make mistakes along the way. It means that we are in pursuit of our truth, of our true selves, of being in a state where we are fully connected to ourselves. So those are two very different things. So there seems to be this anxiousness or anxiety coming up here where we may be questioning, do I do this or do I do that? Do I choose this or do I choose that? And it's really not that you need to choose one over the other. The anxiety is stemming from, I'm not sure which one is in alignment with my truth. And also the only way you really find out is to choose one or the other. And if that doesn't work out, do the other one, right? Make a different choice, then just use this as data and information to start moving, start turning those wheels. Just start pedaling and the wheels start to turn. So coming back into the anxiety portion, feeling this above the belly button here, and then into the back of the neck. So I'm starting to sense this is related to one of the last recordings we did, which talked about the chain across this area. So the anxiety seems to be pulling back into the programming or into the system to make decisions from a place that is not based on your own personal compass. So just sitting with this here for a moment, because it's a very powerful energy that comes up, this anxiety. To move through this, and actually it's feeling like to move around this. Because there is a question here of, do I need to address the anxiety or do I just need to move around the anxiety, almost as if we can just ignore it because it's not really part of our own equation. It's that outer range. Yeah, I feel this in the left lung though. It's like this deep pain. So it seems to be pulling on something internal, this emotional turmoil even. It's causing a sense of emotional turmoil. And is that even real? And this is the eternal looping, right? It's like, am I avoiding something within me that needs to be addressed, or is this something that I need to ignore altogether? And sort of feeling caught in that of, I'm not really sure which one it is and I don't want to make a mistake. So yeah, this is the deeper layer here within this. And just breathing into this, how it's almost as if the body almost wants to start releasing. There's a feeling here of almost wanting to crack the joints or the spine even. Like there's a lot of restriction that has been here in the body due to this tension. And the tension in between these places, these choices, this looping. So continuing to come deeper into this, again feeling this above the belly button, almost as if there's a band in the abdomen here. And it feels buried in some way. It's a highly tensioned band. And then I start to feel this in the base of the right side of the brain. So what's interesting about this concept is that there is a lot of visceral energy. I almost want to say visceral fat surrounding this tension and this sense of insulation around it, right? Whether that's in the energy or in this, again, fat layer, which then sort of dulls the feeling of this. It's like I can feel that there is a lot of tension, but in many ways I can't connect to it directly. And maybe that's even why the layer of fat comes into play, to dull the pain that I feel here, or to dull the sensation of pain that I feel here. But it's not pain, it's tension. So to dull the sensation of tension that I feel. Okay, continuing to come into this in the base of the brain here. It feels like it has been very, very hard to come into contact with this, to be able to stand in front of this and see this properly. But more than that, it's to feel it properly, to engage with it properly. And this is this threshold, because it feels like if I were to just stand here and feel into this, I might explode. So coming into the base of the tailbone here, feeling this heat. That expression comes to mind. If you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. And yet most people do get out of the kitchen. So this avoidance, because we don't really understand what's going on here, and intertwined in that is, it's sort of unknown that this is the point of it, is to face this, is to stand here and feel the heat of it. It is going to feel uncomfortable as long as we are unfamiliar with it. But uncomfortable or discomfort is not wrong or bad. And can we learn to be okay with that? Can we learn to accept that and understand that as a piece of the process? And the more that we engage with discomfort as a tool, the more we will start to understand that it is not scary or defective. And then we will also change our relationship with discomfort in that way. And this is exactly what this piece feels to be about now, as we see this coming into the masculine range, changing our relationship with discomfort. The meaning of life. Engaging with discomfort is a means of changing our life. And yet we have come to define discomfort in so many ways that are incredibly negative, which has then labeled it or created this insufficient illusion around it, leading us to believe that we should not engage with it at all, or it is something that needs to be either squashed completely or obliterated, or this very aggressive kind of energy towards it. And it doesn't have to be aggressive in that manner at all. Discomfort and its illusion. The change maker. There's also a thought that's coming up here that, is the discomfort trying to trick me into doing something or looking at something that I don't need to be looking at? And yet that is coming from a place where we have learned that when we feel discomfort, we start to engage in behaviors which are actually coping mechanisms in order to soothe the pain of the discomfort, in order to soothe the discomfort of the discomfort, rather than getting to the truth of the matter, again through the right side of the base of the brain here. where we start to get pulled out of ourselves, where we start to feel inadequate, where we start to question everything about our reality then. Breathing in and calling ourselves back in here through the center. Anchoring through the right side of the field, the total control of the empath. Staying rooted and grounded, and of course where that was very dangerous in the past. So now needing to overcome these impulses within the energy, within the body. The impulse of control. So this is where we begin to start to take control over our field, therefore over our lives. And this trigger comes in, and interestingly, it triggers us to start to question, even though this is more of a subconscious question. We're really not aware of it in this way, it doesn't seem like, but we start to question, under which realm of control will I feel more safe? And of course, for the time being, we feel safe in what we know, which is the programming of the systems. So the very thing that saves us and serves us from becoming under something else's control is the very thing we are trying to anchor within ourselves, is the very thing that almost pops us back out of our own control into outer ranges of control. Breathing into this here, feeling the madness of all of this, choosing still over all else the self. And recognizing then this ultimate betrayal of the self, the abandonment that was continuing to occur. In order to feel safe, we must betray the self. And yet we know here now that is no longer true, that is no longer appropriate, that is no longer eternal. Anchoring through both sides of the field, all of these ranges of matriculation, embodying the empire, which really feels to be at the base of the head, this deep connection through both hemispheres here. Chara ano koya the ki, chara I ano oya the I, chara I tiat koya chasha I, chana ota ki chasha oya. Toryatana kai chasha oya chasha I, chono koya chasha I. Allowing for the merging, allowing for the eternal gratitude of being rooted to oneself, being merged to one's self. Acknowledging the discomfort here, the hesitation. And yet this is happening outside the realm of consciousness. This inner world of fire, as it is so.